This podcast contains strong language and adult situations and may not be suitable for those who are easily offended. Welcome, fuckers. I'm Kay.
And I'm Jay.
And you're listening to the Fuck My Work Life podcast, where the work stories are real, the laughs are large, and most of us can agree, work sucks. So let's clock out and tune in. All right, everybody. We are here with Janine from the ODDentity podcast. She's coming on to share some horror stories of her life working at a motel. But before we get into the stories, hello, Janine.
Hello, Janine.
Hello. How are you guys doing?
We are
good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah. I have to admit I'm low key geeking out a little bit because I'm a huge fan.
Oh, thanks.
I've been listening since inception.
Oh, wow.
And I often fill my work days with your voices, so it's always nice to put faces to voices.
Thank you. Yeah, it always shocks me when people are like, wow, we listen to you. I'm like, wow, really? Cool.
Well,
let me check the numbers. Did 2 people listen yesterday? They did.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you for being a fan. Wow. I feel all flustered now.
Get hold of yourself.
I know. All right.
You're not special.
Aw. Wow. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah. So the ODDentity podcast, I've been podcasting since around 2014.
Oh, wow.
It started as the Haunt Heads podcast, and I had a couple of co-hosts, and then eventually morphed into a solo show. So it's essentially about the weird, the strange, and the macabre. So you could hear, I did a 3-part series on Jack the Ripper, where I focused primarily on the victims. And that was like 9 hours of recording or something that I did. And then you could listen another day and hear about, some random like outlaw who died in a weird way. Or you could listen and hear about how people in the Victorian era used to eat bread that had plaster of Paris in it because white, heavy bread signified, you were of higher brow. You had more money than most people. I guess because you could afford more plaster of Paris. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, it runs the gamut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, almost 10 years coming up doing podcasting.
Yeah, it makes me feel kind of old. Kind of like cropping.
Yeah. We're all old.
Yeah,
it's fine.
You just got to accept that, that's a thing.
It happens.
Well, yeah, but I mean, in podcasting years, like 10 years is old. It's like you're starting to get those weird moles and you're not sure, you should go and get them checked. You don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, you talk to most podcasters. They're like, yeah, we started during the pandemic. Yeah. It's like, yep. Mm-hmm.
And if you talk to them 6 months later, they're like, yeah, we stopped.
Yeah. Still during the pandemic. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is very time consuming and it can get very exhausting.
It really can. And, you have to do it for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people approach podcasting with this idea that they're going to start podcasting and all of a sudden they're going to be famous and they're going to make all this money. And, one of the things that I tell the people on my podcast network is, fame and money and things of that nature, they're not necessarily a reality for indie podcasters.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, you're a comedian, you're a celebrity, you're a TV personality, you already have a huge following, and then you start a podcast.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, you're going to generate all this ad revenue and, whatever. And it's just not true, for smaller indie pods. I mean, some pods, yeah, they take off and whatever.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I've been podcasting, about 10 years and I think I've made like $200.
Yeah.
Podcasting. So, I mean, I do it for fun. I do it because I enjoy it. I started doing it because there was a niche there that not many people were filling.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to listen to more podcasts like I kind of had in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started podcasting and that's kind of where we are. But I've always done it for just enjoyment. And I think that that's really the key to longevity too.
Yeah.
You know, you have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it and you're doing it for money or you're doing it for fame or whatever, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you know, just like hang up the mic, go home.
Yeah,
you know?
you're going to get sick of it quick if that's why you're doing it.
You're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, that too.
It's going to happen.
Jay's doing it for a pallet of Coors, and he still hasn't gotten that. So
yeah, just one measly pallet of Coors. That's like 12 cases.
I mean, I spent some time in Colorado. Actually, Coors is the only beer that I can drink.
Oh, really?
And I'm not going to tell you why, because I'll probably offend you.
Uh-oh.
But
because it just tastes like water?
Close to what you won't offend me. Look, I've heard it all.
Yeah.
The finest mountain water out of the finest mountain springs, you know.
Yeah, I don't get offended easily, especially by the beer I drink.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what people think. I like it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to drink it.
I mean, I think it's good. I drank a lot of it when I was in Colorado. I went to Colorado to get my MFA, and yeah, man, I love Coors.
Yeah.
For different reasons, but whatever.
It's just easy to drink,
it is. And I mean, you can get shit-faced on Coors real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick.
See, that's the thing with me is if I were to drink like your craft beers, I can put a few back. And when we record, there's times where like it's a solid 12 pack that I go through in the hour and a half
of Coors.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would be much different if it was like craft brews. I would just not be able to speak.
No, you'd be on the floor.
Yeah, I'd be shit hammered.
Yeah.
Drooling out of one side of your mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I like Coors. I like Coors Light. I like their Bonquay. It's good too.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know where I was going with that.
It's just,
I know it's
drink
shit
more
beer.
of it for longer.
I know it's shit beer to a lot of people, but I like it, and I can still function after a 12 pack of it.
Yeah, because it's water.
I mean, basically, it's good water, but it's
yeah. Still trying to get that nail polish. It's always sold out. They like release a certain amount every Tuesday, and it sells out so fast.
Yeah. Until then, you'll have to just, soothe your soul watching the can turn blue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. On that note, so you said you have some great stories of the short time you worked at a motel, but short but full of adventure. It sounds like.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on your definition of the word adventure. It was one of those places where, you'd go to work and you had no idea what you were walking into.
Mm-hmm.
On an average day, I think the most number of times that I called the police was 12.
In one shift?
In one shift. I was there for 8 hours. I called them 12 times. And it was for at least 8 different reasons.
Wow. Because,
you'd have random people coming up who were drunk and they were disorderly and they wanted to rent a room because rooms were like $37 a night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, for $37 a night and you're right off the expressway, who do you think you're going to get?
Right.
Right. These rooms. You're not going to get aristocrats and, whatever, like somebody on their honeymoon. Although, I guess it depends on the person. But,
everyone's got a budget.
That's true. That's true. Ain't no shame in that game. But so 12 times a day and drunk and disorderly, and then also raving people. Mm-hmm. One guy that used to come in was a schizophrenic, and he used to talk to the coffee pot.
Oh.
And he would ask me if, I talked to the coffee pot, and I would, of course, say no. Mm-hmm. And he would say, well, it has good things to say about you. And I thought to myself, well, thank Christ that the coffee pot likes me, because if it didn't, I don't know what his reaction would have been to that.
Mm-hmm.
And on every shift, you're in this tiny, like our main office was just a desk that was like, I don't know, it was like held together with just bodily fluids and
God.
chewing gum, like, and duct tape, like disgusting, completely disgusting. The desk in the back room looked like it had contracted some sort of pox
Oh God.
because it was like bubbled and like the place was just disgusting.
Yeah.
Nice.
But you're in there 8 hours a day. You can't really go anywhere because you have to check people in. That's your job. And so you just basically have the luck of the draw. You never know who's going to walk in through that door. And we didn't have a night window. A lot of those kind of seedy, quote unquote, air quotes, seedy motels have night windows so that you can deal with people through the window. And there's like plexiglass there, and you can take their ID and take their money, and it's, it's all good. It's kosher.
Yeah.
But we didn't have that window. So it was literally like, 2:00 in the morning, somebody randomly wandering in and no lock on the cash drawer. And the cash drawer was literally a drawer.
Were you
Oh,
usually
geez.
by yourself too?
Oh, I was always by myself.
Oh God. That's
Always.
terrifying.
The only time that I wasn't by myself was like for the first week, I want to say like week and a half, 2 weeks that my manager was there. The managers lived on site.
Okay.
So it was literally like the wall for the main office was right here and her apartment was on the other side of that wall.
Wow.
So if I had issues, that was her living room.
Oh wow.
So I could go over and like bang on the wall
Knock on the wall, yeah.
or whatever. But yeah, it was one of those places you just never knew. So, I mean, I've been trying to rack my brain for like the stories that really made an impression on me, because like I said, I was only there for like maybe, 10 months, maybe 11 months. But there was one guy who used to come through. He was there all the time. I'm going to refrain from using names and actually identifying the motel. But I will tell you that they kept the light on.
I was going to ask, did they leave the light on for you?
They did. Yeah. Yeah. And they had that cheesy recording on the phone too for wake up, this is Tombo, wake up. Yeah. They had that. So the one guy that used to come through, he apparently had been coming there for years. And he was a regular, so he had like a special rate. Like they would always give him the trucker discount, even though he wasn't a trucker. So he would come in and ask for the trucker discount and whatever, and we just gave it to him. But he was an alcoholic to the degree that, for the most part, he was so high functioning that you couldn't even realize that he was an alcoholic. So he would come in and be fully functional, like not have a problem, and count out his money and leave. And so one morning, I get to work and it's very cold. I'm in Wisconsin. So, in the wintertime, Wisconsin gets chilly. And I get a call from one of the guests that was staying on we called it the front of the building. I think it was more the back of the building, but the front of the building, where all of like the wheelchair accessible rooms were. And this lady had checked in the night before, and she said she was looking out, she was like peeking out through her curtains, and she could see a guy lying on the sidewalk. And he was like coughing, like lying on the sidewalk. And when she said coughing, I was like, well, thank Christ there's no dead body, because that had happened too.
Oh God.
But so she's like, yeah, you should really send somebody out there to check that out. And I was like, somebody, okay, that's going to be me. Fun. So let's go check this out. And so I get my coat on, I get my boots on, and I lock the office, and I walk around the front, and I see it's this regular guy, who always comes in asking for the trucker discount. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do. He was like 400 pounds, just this huge guy. And he had tried to get his sweatshirt off and could not. He got it halfway off, I guess passed out or fell over or tripped or did something and threw up on that sweatshirt.
Oh no.
And when he did that, the sweatshirt froze to the fucking ground.
Nice.
No.
I can't make this shit up. I can't make it up.
No.
So he's frozen to the ground with all of his little, chunks and his beer and whatever the hell else he was drinking. So I'm like, I don't even know what to do. So I'm, asking him, are you okay? Are you okay? Whatever. And he seems, with it. And he's still coughing, but I mean, it's freezing outside.
This has happened before. Just get a cup of coffee and pour it on the puke, and I'll be fine. This isn't the first time. I know you're new here.
Well, you just told the ending to my story.
Oh no.
Oh, look at that.
It was not coffee, although we frequently had pretty decent coffee. I actually had to go into the office and get a bucket like we had like slightly larger ice buckets, and fill that up with warm water and go out and
Free him
from his sidewalk prison.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And that was like 3 months in or 4 months in. So then every time he would come back through, he'd be like all buddy with me.
We bonded, man.
You saved my life.
Bonded over your puke puddle and your frozen ass to the side. I don't get it.
So could he not wiggle the rest of the way out of his sweatshirt from the ground?
I guess when you get to a certain level of inebriation, you just don't have the, and it was kind of dark out there. Like the place was pretty seedy, so we had like really shitty lights and like whatever. So, I mean, maybe he couldn't see where he was and he was just like, whatever. But he was there really early in the morning until the sun started to come up. And then the lady was like, hey, might want to check on this. There's a baby beluga frozen to the sidewalk out here. Should probably come out, check that out. Yeah, so that was one kind of fun instance, and I'll save the really crazy one for last.
Okay, I'm excited.
This one is not even the craziest one that ever happened there. So I think it was a Thursday, and I was doing the due outs, which is basically, you go through the system, you see who's due to check out. And if they haven't paid yet, you have to call them. A lot of people were really bad about that because, again, it was a really cheap motel. So people, didn't want to shell out because they probably didn't have the money in the first place.
Yeah.
They just wanted to see how far they could push it, which was probably another day that I called the police like 6 times. But yeah, so, it's like midday. I'm doing the due outs, and my boss says, you have to call this one because this one, hasn't paid yet. It's afternoon. And so I called him and he was like, oh, yeah, no problem. So he checked in like 2 days before with this huge husky. It was the biggest dog I have ever seen that was a husky. I don't know if it was like mixed with something else, but it was this big white dog. And he checked in and he paid for like 2 days or whatever. And he brought the dog up to the room and he came back down and he asked me for an iron and, was it an iron and towels, hand towels, because he said he was going to make some taquitos.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you wet the towel and you put it over the iron and that's how it, like, I don't, the mechanics are lost on me, but that's what he said he was going to do. So he came down, he picked that stuff up and he left again. So then, when I come back, he's on the due out list. And I call him, there's no answer. And so after a while, he comes down and he's like, yeah, whatever. I'm really sorry. And he's a little strange, like a little like wavy, like tipsy. And I was like, okay, whatever. He was like, drunk or something. And, it's fine. Just another day ending in Y for me, right? Like, who cares? So he pays his money and he leaves. Then a little while later, the police show up. It's like a couple hours later. And the police are like, so the guy that was staying in this room, we're just letting you know that he's going to stay another night. We're going to take him to a treatment facility. And I thought, why in the world would this police officer, I mean, aside from the fact that like they all knew me and I knew them and like we would carry on and like whatever, because they were there all the fucking time.
Yeah.
So, we were good friends. Why would they be telling me this? And so after a while, he, the cop leaves and then the guy marches up to the front desk and he was wearing a bathrobe. And this is in like March, in Wisconsin. He's wearing a bathrobe and it's like one of those like really thin bathrobes that like isn't really even a bathrobe. Like it's so threadbare that it's not even really clothes.
Yeah.
And you can see right through it.
Oh God.
And he's not wearing anything underneath.
Oh no.
So that was fun. So he's standing there in the lobby and I look at his face and his face looks like if you like mashed up like raw hamburger and put like a bunch of fingerprints in it.
Oh,
that's what his face looked like.
Oh no.
Why?
So now I have to hear the whole story about this, right? Because I make $9.50 an hour. So now I'm everybody's barber and everybody's fucking, like bartender and hair, whatever. And so he's like, I'm gonna re-up another night. And he's like bleeding out of his mouth and he's like missing his teeth are all jacked up. I'm like, what the fuck happened? So they lead him out of the lobby and the cop says, yeah, so, he's gonna stay another night. And I said, can you tell me like anything about what just happened? Like, what did I just experience? What was the cause of this apparition that I just experienced?
Yeah.
And he said, well, as far as we can tell, he did heroin in his room.
Oh, God.
And he overdosed. And he took his dog for a walk. And he took his dog for a walk over, there was like a restaurant next door. He takes his dog for a walk behind the restaurant and literally fucking face plants into the ground.
Oh, God.
Like into the asphalt. Like solid.
Oh, God.
Laid out. And so somebody who was enjoying their food at the restaurant that had this beautiful view of the back parking lot was like, is there a fly in my soup? There's a dead guy in the parking lot out there. Somebody should probably check that out. And so they call the police and the police come and they gave him, I guess, a shot of adrenaline or whatever that is. And he was dead.
Whoa.
But they revived him.
Oh, my God.
So he was literally dead man walking in the lobby with his face like mashed up raw hamburger. And he's going to stay another night. And I said, no, he's fucking not.
No.
Where's his fucking dog?
Yeah, where's the
He's
dog?
not. The dog was in the cruiser.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I know. Everybody always asks me, well, what about the dog? There's like a website, isn't there? What happens to the dog? Does the dog die?
Is there?
Or something in horror movies?
I think the kind of dog you're thinking of is an Alaskan Malamute.
Is it? It was huge.
Yes, because Alaskan Malamutes look just like Huskies, but they are gigantic.
Yeah, it was the biggest. I mean, I've seen Great Danes, like full-size Great Danes, and this dog put a Great Dane to shame. Like,
oh, wow.
Freaking dog.
Well, that might have just been a wolf.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he walked his happy ass from Alaska somewhere, with his wolf dog in his bathrobe with, his Cheetos.
And his heroin.
Yeah. Oh my God. But yeah, so I told the cop, I was like, I'm really sorry. He's not staying another night. Like, I don't know if his overdose was an accident or if it was intentional.
Yeah.
And I had already seen dead people at that point, before and after working at the motel, because I also worked in the funeral industry briefly.
Oh, wow.
So I was not prepared to see another one that particular day or the following day or the day after that. I was not interested in that. And the guy was like, okay, well, I mean, if he's not going to stay another night, like we're going to have to take him to holding. I was like, I don't care where you take him.
Yeah, just not here.
Like, he's not my brother or something.
Maybe that's where he should be.
Yeah.
Instead of my motel being holding for you.
Right.
Because you don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I mean, we got a lot of that too. A lot of charities would put people up, and they'd pay for, a week, or something like that in the motel. So we had to deal with all that too. But yeah, so they took the guy away. I didn't hear about him again for another, God, I want to say probably 8 weeks, like a solid 8 weeks, heard nothing. And then I heard that he was charged with trying to murder somebody in Milwaukee.
Oh, nice.
Oh, no.
So yeah, he I'm pretty sure that he's in prison now. Hopefully he's like in some sort of substance abuse program.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of the craziest things that I've ever experienced in my entire life.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, it'll be hard to top that one.
I thought you were going to say he overdosed and then the dog started eating his face.
Oh, no. No. Sadly, no. That would have been crazier. Actually, no, that would have been more normal.
Yeah, that would have been.
Yeah, that would have been more normal. Yeah, no, that would have been a too normal ending for this whole thing. But yeah, so I have no idea if he got help or whatever. But yeah, it was crazy shit. And like I said, I did not want to have him stay at the motel anymore because I did not want to have to find a dead body again.
Yeah. Sorry, Bob.
Yeah.
But I'm all full up on my quota of dead people for this month. So maybe you take them to holding.
God. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was one of the craziest.
In a world, there was one podcast that made all others look like silly little part-time, half-baked ideas that should have been thrown in the trash can after being written down. That's a super long-winded way of saying that Drunk Theory Podcast is the best-kept secret out there right now. They're a bunch of idiots talking about conspiracy theories, and when these four come together, they have the capability to solve just about any question coming their way. But keep in mind, they're idiots, so sometimes they won't have the answer. But we guarantee you'll end up laughing so hard you cry or urinate in your pants. I don't make the rules here. So let Matthew, Kara, Kelly, and Ryan give you everything you never know you needed, and more. Only on Drunk Theory Podcast, available on all major streaming platforms. More conspiracies coming soon.
I don't know about you, but with a busy work schedule, I never have time to sit down and read. Luckily, there's Newsly. Newsly is an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android. It picks up articles about the most trending topics on the web and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time ever, the entire web becomes listenable, all in one place. You can browse articles from topics you choose and just start playing. Follow specific topics from sports, tech, business, science, or Bitcoin. Newsly will find you the latest articles and read them aloud. They even have digital radio. And do you want to know the best part? They have podcasts. Explore trending podcasts from over 80 countries. And you can find our podcast, Fuck My Work Life, there too. Download and try Newsly for free by visiting www.newsly.me or clicking on the link in our show notes. And be sure to use promo code FWL for a 1-month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling and start listening with Newsly.
So the last wonderful tale that I have to share is in the spring of the year. This lady came to the motel. She had a car that was kind of a junker, and you always knew you were in for trouble when you saw that their car was piled up with like everything that they owned.
Mm-hmm.
That was, for me, that meant that I wouldn't rent rooms to those people because I knew that eventually it would become a problem. And a lot of people they shat on me for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm making like $9.50 an hour, dude. Like I shouldn't have to deal with this shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she came in, she had all of the shit in her car. The person on the shift before me checked her in. And so I came in and the guy was like, yeah, I checked this lady in. I probably shouldn't have. Bye, I'm going home. I was like, great.
Have
Thanks,
fun.
dude. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good weekend. So she came up periodically and she's asking for, towels and whatever, just random like garbage bags and shit like that. Like, okay, well, this is pretty normal. Maybe it won't be so bad. Maintenance and housekeeping had gone into her room and not seen any issues. So I was happy about that. I was like, that's fine. She's being quiet. We're not seeing like any upset. Or anything. She was a no calls, not here, which was the rule that we had for women who were trying to get away from their husbands.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They were in abusive relationships. And so we'd put no calls, not here on their file. But yeah, so I put her in one of the rooms down the front in one of the better lit areas. I also had a view of that room, which was something that I frequently did because, I like to keep an eye on people who have those notes in their file, just in case. And so yeah, it was like a week or so. Everything was fine. Didn't hear anything from her. And then one day I get a call from a guy who's like 2 or 3 rooms down and like on the other side, who was like, I was just out taking my dog for a walk. And I noticed that the back window of this car is busted out. And I was like, oh, well, that's not, like we can't leave that like that. So I look up the license plate number and ta-da, it's our friend who has been causing no problems thus far. And I was like, okay, I really hope that this is not the beginning of something, but it probably is. So get her on the phone. I say, Mrs. So-and-so, I'm sorry to bother you, but your back window is smashed out. Were you aware of this? And she's like, oh yeah, I know. I was like, okay. You doing anything about that? Or like, we're due to get some rain. I don't know if you like your house is in your car. I don't know if you give a shit. And she was like, oh yeah, it's taken care of. It's taken care of. So I'm like, okay, it's taken care of. So she's called like Safe Light or some shit, and they're going to come and they're going to, it'll be fine. So I go home. I come in the next day, and the guy who's there before me says, just a little note about yesterday. The police came by because the window was busted out of the back of her car, and somebody reported it because they were like, well, there's been like a theft or something. We should really report this. They called it in the police. So the police came there probably for the 12th time that day. And they took a report. It's like the same story, but like slightly different. So they take a report, and he's like, yeah, so I tried to call her. I couldn't get any answer. I don't know what's going on. The police are there now. I'm going home. Bye. Have a nice night. Like I said, it's the same story. It's just right. It's slightly different. So I have to go down and check on it because now it's my bag of shit. So I go down and I say, Mrs. So-and-so, I see that your car is still not repaired. And you said that this was something you were going to take care of. And now it's pouring, like literally pour. Like I've been outside for like 2 minutes. I'm soaked.
Oh, geez.
And she's like, oh yeah, I'm taking care of it. And the cop is like, well, we really there's glass all over the ground. Like, we really need to take care of this because now it's a hazard for other people. And, you need to do something about this. So she says, okay, well, get me some garbage bags. So I go up to the front office and I grab like some of the big, like heavy duty garbage bags and I bring them down and she has some duct tape there. And so we're like trying to, and it's not working, like the bags keep blowing away or falling places. And I'm like, look, lady, like, I'm really sorry, but I have to go back to the office because I can't deal with this anymore. And she's like, oh, well, wait, help me. And so I stayed there and I helped her kind of get things in place. And she's like, okay, everything's okay. And the cops are like looking at me like, is everything okay? And I was like, please leave. Please just go away. Just everybody go away. So they leave. And as I'm walking away, she says, oh, hey, would you be able to help me with something real quick? And I'm like, yes. And she's like, yeah, so, help me get some of this stuff out of my car and bring it into the room so that, it's not getting rained on, whatever. And I'm like, I feel so bad for this lady because she's on the, no call, not here list. And she's dealing with all that shit. I have no idea what this poor woman has been through. So I'm like, fine. I'm already soaked. Fine. So I start carrying stuff in. And I'm carrying stuff in, and I'm carrying stuff in. And like an hour goes by, and I'm carrying stuff in. And finally, she's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. She's like, there's just, a couple of more bags that I need your help with. And I'm like, okay. And so she's ahead of me, reaching into the back seat to try to get, stuff out. And she grabs this bag, and she goes to hand it to me, and the smell hits me.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, I know what that smell is.
Dead people.
Because I have smelled dead things.
Oh, no.
And it's a dead thing in a garbage bag that she's trying to hand me. I'm like, I'm not. I was like, can you actually set that down? Like, I don't know what that is, but it might be like evidence. Like,
yeah.
Is your husband in that bag? Like, I don't fucking know. So she sets the bag down, whatever. And as she's setting it down, it splits.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
And something comes out of it. And I couldn't really make out what was coming out of it until I kind of like came around the side of the car door. So apparently when she checked in, she had said that she was bringing her dog.
Oh, no.
And the story doesn't get any better. So she's bringing her dog with her. She's like, the place is pet friendly, right? And the guy who was working the night shift was like, yeah, the place is pet friendly, no problem. What kind of dog is it? And she's like, oh, yeah, it's like a little poodle, like mix, whatever. Okay. So the dog had died 2 weeks prior.
Oh, God.
And because she is essentially homeless and has been moving, because she's trying to get away from her husband, she's been moving from hotel to motel to hotel to, like periodically changing addresses. She didn't have any time to bury the dog. And this is what she's telling me. She didn't have time. And she's weeping and whatever. And at this point, I'm just like, I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to do. Do I call the police again? What are the police going to do? Like, just no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally, the one of the interim managers, they had problems keeping managers there. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, shocker.
And more common sense than me, clearly. They came out with a shovel and got the carcass up off the ground and put it in trash bags and whatever. And I guess her husband paid to have the animal taken care of eventually. I don't know how soon it happened because we put it in bags. And honestly, I don't know what she did with it.
Oh, God.
From there. I don't know if went back in the room or went back in the car, what happened.
No.
But after she checked out, that room needed a severe deep clean.
Yeah.
Because it was awful.
Oh, God. I feel so bad for her and the dog.
I mean,
Can you just imagine the mental state you have to be in that you're just keeping your dead dog in a plastic bag in your car?
Yeah. Well, you think about the life that she was kind of living before that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the dog provided some sort of comfort for her.
Yeah.
And she just couldn't bear to part with the dog. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people that checked in that were dealing with, not only homelessness, but also just kind of severe mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, you could tell when those people checked in that they were fighting through something.
Yeah.
But it was one of those jobs where, like I said, you didn't, from day to day, you didn't, and it wasn't every day, I was only there 11 months, but it seems like it's every day. But it was, it was rarely, every day that something weird or something, gross would happen. But yeah, I mean, I'm writing a book about it now.
Oh, nice.
So that's fine. But yeah.
What was the final straw that made you quit?
Oh, actually, that's really funny. The final straw that made me quit was one of the interim managers that they had actually reported me to the head of the company in that region because he said that I had a bad attitude.
Oh, geez.
And so I had to sit through what was essentially an interrogation in one of the hotel rooms. Because they didn't have a conference center or anything. Yeah. And the back office was exactly the size of a tuna can. So there was nowhere to sit. So he literally rented out a room and was like, yeah, come in, sit down. I have to tell you what a terrible employee you are. And I was like, I have been here for 11 months and I have seen some shit. And you have not seen the shit that I have seen. And you're going to sit across from me and tell me that I have a bad attitude. I was like, okay, you know what? Shook the man's hand, walked out. It's like, peace out. That's fine.
Wow.
That's fine. You can have it.
Did every manager live on site?
Yeah, every single manager. Yeah, with the exception of, let's see, the first manager left, the second manager lived on site. The third manager actually did not live on site because they lived on site at another location.
Oh, wow.
So they were coming back and forth because they had one in Milwaukee by the airport. And then they also had one, in Brookfield, Wisconsin. So he would go back and forth. But yeah, with the exception of that, every manager, even if they were just coming in to manage in the interim, they would stay in a hotel room and stay on site. Wow. And I don't know how they did it. Yeah. I would just watch my boss. My first boss was amazing. And I would just watch her in awe because the things that she had to deal with, the ridiculous people and just all of these crazy circumstances. And it was just water off a duck's back, man. She just didn't give a shit. She was like, that's fine. It's a day ending in Y. Welcome to the motel, and all, whatever. It's fine. And then she'd look at me and be like, yeah, you have some white on your shoes. They need to be all black. I was like, we had so many other important things to do and deal with and this shit. Wow. But yeah, she was amazing. The next round of managers, not so much, but she was good.
How did you last 11 months? I the first time something crazy happened, I'd be like, I'm out.
I've always been that kind of, I don't want to say that I'm the kind of person that just seeks out drama, but I'm the kind of person that seeks out strangeness and natural strangeness, because, for myself, I consider myself to be quite odd and quite strange.
Mm-hmm.
I have a large collection of taxidermy and wet specimens and, whatever. I collect weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been that kind of weird, odd person that never really fit into any, box or mold.
Yeah.
And I think I'm always looking for those positions where,
Yeah.
there is no mold.
Yeah.
There is no shape, It's like a cat, whatever box it sits in,
Mhm.
that's the shape that it takes,
Right.
because cats are liquid.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's, I've always kind of sought out those kind of weird, odd places. I mean, the reason why I got involved in the funeral industry was because in high school, I pipped off one day and decided to go see a movie, and they were giving out assignments for internships that day. So people got to go to like the radio station and like whatever, and did like all these cool jobs. And I came back in, and the guy who was running the class, who was actually my cousin, because I was born in Newfoundland, Canada, and it's a very small place, and
Mhm.
people know people and, whatever. But he was the mayor, and he was also my cousin, and he was my professor in this
Oh, wow.
particular class. So he said, well, Janine, the only position I have left is at this funeral home. And I was like, well, what am I going to be doing? I'll vacuum, I'll arrange some fucking flowers. I don't know,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. And I wound up staying there for almost 2 years. It was only supposed to be an 8-week internship, and I was there for almost 2 years.
Oh, wow.
But, the people there were fantastic, and they were odd. They were just weird, like, you're just so strange, and I love that. So I kind of glommed onto them, and, I've just always kind of sought out those places, kind of the cracks in between, know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got a lot of good stories out of it, so that's good.
I've been in a lot of cracks.
Yeah. Did you like the show 6 Feet Under?
I watched like 8 or 10 episodes of that, and I couldn't get into it. I need to try it again because it's been a few years.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy Dead Like Me, I think it was.
Oh, I love Dead
Yeah,
Like
with the
Me.
kid Grim Reaper. That was funny.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a good show. But yeah, no, I need to give 6 Feet Under another shake. I don't think it's gotten a fair shake.
I mean, the characters definitely have their weirdness. Probably not as weird as you see in real life, I'm guessing. But that's one of my favorite shows ever. Because I feel like I like weird stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you're weird.
But I'm also like pretty vanilla.
Sure.
So
that's fair.
Yeah, I think part of me would be like, it'd be cool to work as a mortician or in a funeral home. But then at the same time, I'd probably be like, that'd probably terrify me at the same time.
Well, yeah, and it's just gross.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gross. People are gross enough when they're alive.
Yeah.
I have a lot of social anxiety disorder, so I think that this is fueling this kind of angle that I'm taking. But yeah, I mean, in general, people are just, gross.
Yeah.
And when they die, they're even more gross.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can deal with the blood and the smells and the fluids,
yeah,
you'll be fine. But
then also the people, living family members that you have to deal with too is probably almost worse.
Yeah. See, I was always really good at that. I don't understand what it is about grief. Grief for me is like I lost my grandfather last October, and that for me really hit me hard because he was essentially like a father figure to me. Like he raised me, so it was like a big deal. And I could talk to complete strangers about their loved ones and just be completely impartial.
Yeah.
And, soothe them and help them, pick out different, elements of the service and, what poem do you want? And, can I recommend this? And I never had a problem with that until it actually happened to me. And then I was like, I kind of get it now.
Yeah.
I've been there too. Maybe I'd be better at it now. I don't know. Because I didn't have that experience when I was doing it, when I was in high school.
Right.
Nobody knew I was in high school when I was like, well, have you thought about the mahogany?
16-year-old telling them how to.
By the way, I'm flunking math. This is a lovely poem. Yeah. No, it just, it never came up. But yeah, I'd probably be better at it now, I think. There's a maturity that comes with
life.
Yeah, and not only, dealing with death, but, like experiencing it.
Mm-hmm.
That really kind of changes your perspective on the whole thing. And like, how much stuff do I have? Do I need that stuff? Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing in work? Am I doing something I truly enjoy? Like, what if I was making more money? Would I be happier? Is money the root of all happiness or the root of all evil? And you have all of ththese profound conversations with yourself in your head. But
yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us.
Yeah, thank you. They were great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were great for you. You didn't have to.
Well, yeah. It was fun for us, to listen to
That's what I meant.
You just had to listen. You didn't have to scrape broken puke up off the sidewalk.
No. I know. I wouldn't want to.
Just think all of those experiences just make you who you are, right?
That's very true.
They add to...
That is very true.
Hey, look, the next time someone finds someone frozen to the sidewalk from their own puke,
they're going to know how to deal with it.
They're going to know how to deal with it.
I mean, honestly, I am nothing but a how-to. A living, breathing how-to. Yeah.
That's a good way to be. Well, everybody go check out Janine's podcast, ODDentity, where she talks about the weird and strange and macabre, all that fun stuff. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll put in our show notes where to find the show.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. Again, you guys have such an awesome show, and thank you so much for doing it.
Oh, thank you.
For putting it out there. Until I started listening to you guys, I didn't really hear anything that was similar. The most similar was Let's Not Meet.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
Which is like, it's like people meet creepy people and bad things happen.
Oh, God.
And people write stories and send them in. It's like a whole Reddit thread too, like Let's Not Meet on Reddit. But yeah, it's I think that you're doing a real service to allow people to
unload,
evacuate all of their ills, if you will, in podcast form. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, you're welcome. I'm glad we could provide some relief to some people.
Yeah.
And it's a relief for us too, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
For everyone who listens who's had to work a shit job in their life,
We've all been there.
For sure. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. And thanks again, Janine. Bye, fuckers.
Bye, fuckers.
Thank you for listening to the Fuck My Work Life podcast. If you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. You can support the show by telling your friends or joining our Patreon. We also have some sweet Fuck My Work Life merch available over at Teespring. All links can be found in the show notes. Send your workplace stories to fmwlpod@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 310-818-3273. Be sure to follow us on all the socials at FMWLpod. And remember to support indie podcasts. They work hard to bring you a variety of amazing content. Until next week, bye fuckers.